Welcome to the Rock Interview Series with host Thomas S. Orwatt Jr.
Welcome to episode number 89 of the Rock Interview Series. I'm Thomas Orwatt Jr. It is December 8th, 2023, and for this feature, I have John Jeffrey, leader and lead guitarist of the Western New York award-winning KISS tribute band, Kiss This, and mastermind behind Buffalo Rock City KISS compilations as my guest. During this conversation, John talks about seeing KISS perform on December 2nd at Madison Square Garden in New York City, his thoughts about the launch of the new KISS Avatar era, and gives us updates on Kiss This, including a band lineup change. So here he is, John Jeffrey. Before we get started, please subscribe to the Rock Interview Series. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Rock Interview Series, and today's episode is going to be all about one of our favorite bands, KISS. And because of that, we're bringing back our good friend John Jeffrey. This guy, hands down, knows more about KISS than anybody else. And I'll put you up against any of those guys. You know, all those guys with the podcast and everything, they don't know as much about KISS as this man, John Jeffrey. So, John, thank you very much for joining us. And before we get started, I want to talk about a couple of projects that you're working on. Of course, you know, John is the founder and lead guitarist in the Buffalo or Western New York KISS tribute band called Kiss This, and they've been going around for quite a while. Very, very extremely popular in Western New York. And John also recently released a KISS compilation called Buffalo Rock City Volume 2, which is a Western New York tribute to KISS. John, thanks for joining us, and tell us what's going on in KISS This world and with Buffalo Rock City Volume 2.
Well, thanks again for having me on, Tom. It's always a pleasure to be on your show because you're super knowledgeable, and I appreciate you do your homework, and thank you. Basically, right now we released Buffalo Rock City 2 on Halloween, and the response has been overwhelming. And again, this album is for charity for the Mariah Love Foundation, organization based here in Buffalo, New York, and we're just happy that it's already a success, and we look forward to being able to help the Mariah Love Foundation and donating money to such a great cause. And as far as with Kiss This, we're actually playing our last show of 2023 in Rochester, our second home, at Bunsey's Bandstand on December 16th, which is a week from this upcoming Saturday. And it's going to be a great show, and we're already looking forward to 2024. And we actually have a big change with Kiss This. We have a new drummer. Our old drummer, Julius Jambaluka, is stepping down, and we have a new drummer based from Rochester, New York. His name is Billy Eberts, and if you recognize his name, he is the solo drummer for Donnie V from Enough's Enough. So if you're ever lucky enough to catch Donnie V on doing any of his solo dates, Billy is usually his drummer for the band. And our first show with Billy is going to be at the Del Lago Casino at the Vine on Saturday, February 10th in Waterloo, New York.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great venue. Congratulations on getting that gig and getting Billy
Thanks.
as on board as your drummer.
Thank you.
Well, I'll definitely be there for that. That's going to be a great show. And anybody in the Western New York area, definitely check out Kiss This. If you have, then you totally agree with what I'm talking about. I mean, this is the greatest Kiss tribute band out there right now. And congratulations going to you for keeping it together all these years and having the band grow as it has and becoming what it has become.
Yeah, I mean, and it, when you have new life coming into the band, it gives you a certain sense of feeling, reinvigorated to do it again, to try to outdo what you've done before. So Billy is definitely that he's that new blood, and we're feeling it. And 2024 is going to be a great year for the band. And we're looking forward to doing lots of different things, and starting out at such a great venue like the Vine at Del Lago is just you can't get much better than that.
And we're going to talk about your experience that you had this past weekend in New York City, seeing Kiss and
Who?
watching their a band called Kiss. I think you're familiar with them. Seeing their final show at Madison Square Garden. You were one of the lucky people to go to that.
I
And
was there.
you were there, yeah. And I've been waiting to hear your opinion on this show, and you really haven't shared it yet. So I thought we would bring you on the show so I could talk to you personally about this and ask you like my million questions about the show since I wasn't able to go.
Right.
Um, and I'm super jealous and kind of disappointed in myself. I mean, I feel like, being a Kiss fan as long as I have, I kind of felt like I should have been there. And this is something I'm probably going to have to like deal with for the rest of my life, not being at that last Kiss show. But you were there, and so I can live vicariously through you and your experiences there. And let's start off by talking about the show. I mean, let's start from like so you're from Buffalo, New York, and you traveled to New York City, and you traveled to the show the day of the show. Is that how it worked, or were you there?
Yeah. I actually traveled with two of the guys from Kiss This, Kevin Blakita, or Paul Stanley, and Julius Jambaluka, our drummer, who's actually, like I said, be doing his last gig with us a week from Saturday, and our very very good friend, our 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 road manager. I was gonna say road mother because he says he's our Jewish mother. That's what he calls himself. Al Baker. He's a great guy, and so it was very special to share that experience with those three guys. And we actually took a bus, a Greyhound, out of Buffalo at 9 a.m. and it was scheduled to get into New York City around 5, but because of rush hour traffic, we didn't hit the city until about 6. But the cool thing was is the bus let us off right at the back end of Madison Square Garden. So that was pretty surreal, like literally stepping off the bus and then just looking and boom, you're right there, Madison Square Garden. So, you know, it was very, very surreal.
Were there any moments of panic that you weren't going to get there on time when you got stuck in traffic going over there?
No, because I knew that Kiss was going to be going on at about quarter to 9. So I knew as long as we got there, by 8:30 at the very latest, we'd be fine. But there was no. I mean, it was just where the traffic got stuck was right before entering the Lincoln Tunnel. So I knew once we hit the tunnel and we got through there, it would just be a matter of time before we got into the city. So nobody was freaking out or anything.
Was this the first time that you saw a show at the Madison Square Garden?
Yes, I had seen Kiss actually at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, but I had never seen them at the Gardens.
And what was that experience like seeing the gardens in front of you as you like the part of the bus? And was it surreal for you to actually like, be in like the biggest city in the world, walking into a venue where you're going to see the greatest band of all time play their last show ever?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like being in the land of Oz. Like I literally am the same age as Kiss. I was born in July of '72, and people kind of go back and forth of when Kiss actually started. But essentially they started in 1972. So it's a band. I'm literally the same age as and has always been there, and a band I grew up with. So kind of now I've literally outlived my favorite band. So like being there at that final show, it was like I said, surreal is the best way I could put it in terms of being there, knowing it being the last show, and being able to experience that having that opportunity. It was a, once in a lifetime experience.
Well, there's a lot of Kiss fans that know of you. Did you like constantly I mean, were you constantly surrounded with people that you recognize as you're like walking around the venue and walking to your seats?
That's the funny thing. It was more or less, as I was trying to, get into the venue and get situated, I'm, messaging tons of people that I know that are there. And a lot of people were, hanging out at other spots, not at the venue. So there was a lot of people that I knew that were going to be at the show. But unfortunately, I really didn't get the opportunity to run into or hook up with a lot of people, prior to the show or after the show, because we actually wound up literally leaving to go back to Buffalo right after the show. So, if there was anything that was, uh, a letdown for me, was that I didn't get the opportunity to really share that experience with more people that were actually there at the show. If there could be any letdown from the show, which to me there wasn't, that would be it.
Hmm. And did you get to see the merch lines? I heard that it was, the lines were really long and the merch was selling out like quickly during that show. Did you notice that? Can you give us any tell us
Well,
anything about the
yeah,
merch lines and what you observed?
that's the funny thing, was that, I'm not really a huge, merch guy, because I've pretty much collected everything that I've wanted to collect. And there's really not much that's come out that I've really, like, I have to have this type thing. But I did want to have some sort of souvenir from being at the last show. And from what I understand, is the Madison Square Garden specific items that they were selling, they put them all for sale on Friday, and they didn't have any sort of restrictions as far as how many, pieces people could buy. So of course, people were buying up all of the Madison Square Garden specific items on Friday, and by the time I got there, on Saturday, they were all sold out. So that was the letdown. But thankfully, I didn't have to stand in line to find that out. I was able to kind of just walk up to the stand, like to the right side or left side, and just kind of see what they had, and ask the people who were working, what they had, if they had any of the, Madison Square Garden tour books or the shirts, and they were like, no, they're all sold out. So.
Oh, that's a little disappointing. So, um, you got to your seats. What kind of seats did you have? I mean, this was a difficult ticket to get. There a lot of the good seats were sold out right away, but then a lot of tickets went back on sale, and even the day of the show, there were tickets that you could buy resale wise, and there's also they opened up a couple sections on the side of the stage. What kind of seats did you have for the show?
We actually lucked out because, being in Kiss This, we've actually developed a friendship with the Johnny Ryan soda, the company that puts out the Gene Simmons Moneybag soda. And they actually, John and Paul Janik, they had acquired a bunch of tickets for the show when they went on sale. And they actually were gracious enough to offer up some of the tickets that they had, and sold them to us, actually, I believe, below face value. And we were able to get the 4 tickets for the 4 of us for the show. And they were in section 105, which was on Tommy's side. um, and they were only a few rows up off the floor. And we were also pretty much where we were at in the arena, was back towards where we were, pretty much right across from Paul's stage that he flew out to for Love Gun and I Was Made for Loving You in the beginning of Black Diamond. So, it was close enough to be able to see the whole show, because, a lot of times I've been to Kiss shows and I've been up, front row or super close. And one of the things that you don't really get to really take in when you're that close is the enormity of the show, and what the lighting and all the special effects and the pyro and what it looks like, being back a little farther. And I mean, man, I mean, just the production of the show, I have to say that that show was literally the best production I've seen at any, reunion era, Kiss show. Was that final show at Madison Square Garden. They went all out in terms of just, the lighting was spectacular. The pyro was over the top. Just, everything, and with utilizing modern technology, I just think it was, yeah. And also, if people aren't aware, for this tour, they did start bringing back some of the actual physical props that they had during the 70s. Like they brought back Sammy the Serpent, which was Gene's kind of mascot that he had on stage during the Love Gun tour. And they also brought back the cats that they had on stage during the Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over tour. They were newer versions with really cool light up LED um, lights in the eyes, and so it was cool that they not only had the modern flair with the show, but they brought back some of the actual physical props that fans wanted to see. So that was a very cool I guess meeting of old and new.
Yeah, I watched a pay per view on the day of the show, and I myself thought like I agree with you. Like visually, I thought it was unbelievable, and that made me even more pissed that I wasn't there. And but musically too, I thought that they were pretty tight. I mean, of course they would be, but there's been some complaints about Kiss and their performance, and especially Paul Stanley, and we don't really know how much of it was actually singing live, but he sure looked convincing to me on a lot of the songs. That at least the first Detroit Rock City, I think he was 100% live on that, on the opener. And
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the cat's out of the bag now. I mean, there's no reason to hide it. Basically, what Paul has been doing since 2018 is he's got backing tracks that are going when he's singing live, right? And as the backing tracks are going, he is also singing live. He's not up there miming. He's not just like opening his mouth along in time with the words. He's actually singing. And then they've worked out between him and the sound guy when his real vocals are actually being put through and then blending in and switching out, swapping out his real vocals with the backing tracks. And that's what's done throughout the whole show. And then, of course, when he's singing, particular things that are specific to the show, like saying, "Hey, New York City," yada yada yada. Those are the parts. When obviously, they're making sure that the actual live vocals are in there, and then the stuff that's pre-recorded is pulled back. So even though Paul was singing to tracks on the tour, he wasn't miming, he wasn't just lip syncing, he was singing. But the thing is he realizes, and that one of the reasons why they decided to stop is that his he's literally done everything that he can to do to try to keep his voice in the best condition that he can. He's gone through multiple vocal surgeries, even going back to 1975. He had the first surgery done on his voice. He started having issues as early as then. And he's done everything that he can, and it just came to a point where I feel he wanted to make sure that doing this last tour there was a certain level of consistency, that no matter where you were, where you saw the band, you were going to get the same level of consistency, especially from his vocal performance. And that's the reason why he had a lot of his vocals on tracks, is because he wanted to make sure that everybody who bought a ticket and saw the show, they got to see the same you know level of show and of quality. And that's the reason why they did it. Now, personally, as a fan, if I would have known, say, going back to, I don't know, Sonic Boom 2009, 2010, if that was something they were doing back then, and they were just literally trying to ride their career out doing something like that, I probably wouldn't have supported it. However, knowing the reason behind it, that they really wanted to have this last go around be as consistent and as great as possible for the fans. It was something that, it's not something that I prefer, but I understand, the reason behind it. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that, as far as, with the tracks and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I don't know if he could, well, obviously he can't sing through an entire set, and I can't imagine. I mean, the tour would have been a disaster if, they didn't have a little help vocally on that. So it was really the only way that they could do this. And I for one, I would rather see that than not see anything at all. I mean, mm, so, I agree with the decision. A lot of people don't, but I mean, it's then don't go. Then, I mean, then just stay home
Well,
and nobody's
that's
forcing
the
you to go.
thing, and Paul even said himself, if people criticize what his voice sounds like now, it's like, if you want to hear me sound like how I did on Kiss Alive, then go put on Kiss Alive. He's not trying to fool anybody. He's not trying to say, no, I'm not in my 70s, I'm still in my 20s. It's there's a certain reality involved with their age. And while there's, I'm sure there's a handful of singers out there that, you can go see, that are in their 70s and still are singing, all the notes with, no flaws. God bless him. But, Paul knew, that he was having issues, and there's certain part of his range that is not there anymore, or is there but doesn't sound as good as it did. And he utilized technology in order to, again, provide the fans with a consistent show. I mean, they started the tour back in 2000, what, 2000, end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and here we are, you know 4 years into the tour. He knew it was going to be a long road. And so, that was the way that they went about doing it. And I think for the most part, it worked.
Yeah. Well, what did you think of the band's performance on this particular show? I mean, you've seen a couple shows already on the End of the Road tour. So how
Right.
would you rank this performance compared to the previous ones that you watched?
That's a really hard question, because I think overall what I noticed, not necessarily in the performance, but parts of the show, I noticed that they really, really worked on really tightening, um, like the solo spots. Seeing the tour. I first saw the tour back in March of 2019, and I also seen them a couple times. I think 3 times since then, before this last show, and literally Gene's, solo with the blood, and Tommy's guitar solo, and Eric's drum solo, all 3 of those solo spots all progressed, and they really, really nailed. I think they really got all those spots to where they wanted them to be. And it seemed like it took some time before they really kind of, you know, uh, figured out what worked, what didn't, and they fine tuned the solo spots to. I mean, Gene's solo spot was just, I mean, it was so awe inspiring to see. It just really brought me back to, being a kid again, and seeing them for the first time on the Dynasty tour in 1979. And Gene just, really, really, I can really think that in Gene's mind, like when he did that blood routine for the last time, he knew he was doing it for the last time. And the way that he, grimaced looking into the camera and stared into the camera, there was, there was an emphasis on, this is the last time, and he really wanted to do it his best. And I think that, goes across the board with the band and the performance. Um, so, I really think that the band, you know, they 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 gave it their all, knowing each one of them for whatever it meant to them personally, knowing that that was the last time that they were going to be, be performing as Kiss in makeup. I really think that they put it all into that performance that night.
One of the criticisms that I've been reading about through social media is some fans feel that they should have mentioned the contributions of past members of the band. And there was no acknowledgement of that whatsoever. I mean, this was pretty much the same show that they've been performing on this entire leg, I mean, as far as the set list goes. And
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, they did have an interview segment of some pre-recorded stuff that was done before the show that was played before they performed. And I know specifically, Eric Singer talked about both Peter and Ace and what those guys, meant to the history of the band. And literally, I think Paul Stanley put it the best, was that Kiss couldn't have been there and done that show. They couldn't have done it without Peter and Ace, but they also couldn't have done it that night with Peter and Ace. So I mean, as an overall representation with the video montage, the original band was acknowledged, but as far as within the actual show, I mean, I don't know what people really expect for them to say. Like what, this next song, this, Ace used to love playing the solo to this song, or I remember when Peter first wrote, the drum intro to Do You Love Me? I mean, like where do you draw the line? Like as far as like I don't know what fans expected them to say or to do. That they didn't really play anything from I don't they didn't play Tears Are Falling that night, so they didn't play anything from the Bruce Kulick era. So to mention Bruce Kulick during the show when they didn't play any of the songs that he was a part of, you know, really to me wouldn't make sense. I mean, Eric Carr was a huge part of the band, um, you know, and they played I Love It Loud and Lick It Up and War Machine. But again, like where do you uncomfortably segue saying something about those guys during the show when ultimately they're trying to put a bow with a ribbon on the last show of this lineup of the band before the band now becomes immortal and heads into a new era of what they want to do with the Kiss brand. I just don't know what people expect. I mean, you obviously you're a fan, Tom. Do you think that there should have been some point where they should have said something or an idea of how they could have segued saying something about them? I mean, what do you think?
I feel, and my opinion was kind of changed after I heard something that Tommy Thayer said after the show. He said, this night was really about Gene and Paul and what they created. And that got me thinking, yeah, these guys were there, from day one, 50 years. And yes, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, Eric Carr, Bruce Kulick, Vinnie Vincent, all played a role in getting the band to where they are. But Tommy's been in the band since what, 2004, and Eric's been in the band for like, longer than any other member besides, Gene and Paul. So, you know, I don't think it was really that necessary. I understand why people get upset. I mean, ultimately everybody wanted, the past members to make an appearance, and maybe Peter Criss join them on stage and sing Beth, and Ace coming out and doing a song. But there's some bad blood between those guys, and I don't know who to believe, if Kiss actually reached out to them and they turned it down, or what the story is. But I mean, that would have been cool to see that. But in retrospect, it really was, in my opinion, it was a night for Gene and Paul to really put that ribbon on it, like you said, and it's really a celebration of what they've endured during the last 50 years. And I really think it should have been their night to celebrate with the fans. And, it is what it is, so I was okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately they did what they wanted to do, and it's no secret that the biggest the biggest downfall between the four original Kiss members, it's ego and money, and it's across the board. It's not one person in particular; it's all four of them. They all have a certain amount of ego, and to that, and there's certain amount. There's a dollar sign attached to their worth. So did Gene and Paul reach out to Ace and Peter? You know, did they ask them to do it for free and they said no? Did Ace and Peter say we want to do it, but you have to pay us a certain amount of money to I mean, you could believe whatever side you want, but the bottom line is, it's the show was going to happen no matter what, right? The show was sold out. Both nights were sold out, and that was, nobody knew if Ace and Peter were going to be involved at any point. So, you know, the bottom line, them being there, it wouldn't have made them any more money to have them there. I mean, would it have been great to have, the surviving members of the band all come out, Vinnie Vincent, Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, Bruce Kulick, yeah, that would have been great. But again, I think there was a certain emphasis as far as, closing out what the current lineup has accomplished, and also giving a kind of a sign of what's to come, for the future of Kiss, the brand. And as we saw, the future also, still represents the current lineup. So even though it's not going to be in a, physical format, that the current lineup is what's going to continue, at least is what would their advertising as of now, which of course anything could change, right?
Right. Yeah. And we can talk about that in a couple of seconds, but I do want to ask you, like during this
Yeah.
performance, was there ever a time that you got a little emotional, realizing that this would be the last time that you were seeing Kiss live on stage?
I kind of thought that I was going to, but the thing that really hit me the hardest, and this was the thing that I found was ironic, was that people were saying that they didn't feel that Kiss were being emotional at all, that they were showing lack of emotion. And the thing that really hit me is when Paul Stanley was saying during the show was that, when they played at Madison Square Garden, the first time, that they remember their family being out in the audience, and saying ultimately, in their career, that the biggest thing that they wanted collectively was the acceptance of their parents, accepting them doing what they were doing. And that really hit me hard, because I think deep down, I think that's what most people want, is they want that acceptance. Whatever you're doing, whatever your passion, whatever your love is you hope that your parents, that they approve. And I think him going to that level was a was a very human moment, and that's what hit me the most as far as being at the show. Not necessarily thinking like, oh, this is the last show, I won't see them again, but when he mentioned that just, it hit me like, okay, this is what it means to them, and that connected to me on a very human level.
Yeah, I've seen a couple, farewell tours with other artists, and I always went in expecting it to be like that cry fest at the end. Like for instance, I saw, well, not that I would expect this artist to cry or get teary-eyed. But I saw Ted Nugent play on his farewell tour in Rochester, and he still had like, a few weeks of shows after, scheduled after that particular show. But I went into it thinking like, there was gonna be speeches, thank you, Rochester and West New York for all these great years. There was like no mention of it or anything. I mean, it was no acknowledgement from Ted. And who knows if there's really is going to be his farewell tour, because a lot of these, farewell tours, how they turn out. But
Oh
I,
yeah.
I was I was really surprised that, there wasn't any like final goodbye, and I kind of felt like I needed that closure, and and maybe in a way it kind of gave me hope that maybe, well, maybe this isn't the end of it. Maybe he'll be back. But so I felt that Kiss kind of, with other than what you just mentioned, I kind of felt that, that they kind of like avoided that to a certain degree too. It wasn't any like, super like emotional like speech at the end by Gene or Paul.
Yeah, again, I think there was a sense of where throughout the show, I mean, they kept mentioning that this is the end of the road, and you'd hear the fans being there. Literally hear the fans in the crowd wincing and kind of booing, like sighing, that like when they mention it being the end of the road, and Paul's going, "Yeah, I know it's sad, but let's make this positive. Let's have a great night. Let's celebrate. Let's be joyous." So there was, I don't know how well it came through in the pay-per-view, but there were moments like that. I mean, they didn't go into, some big long, rock and roll Hall of Fame type, speech at the end or anything like that. But again, I really think that the way that the show was tailored was not only for them to be able to, play their final show, but also again promote and prepare, the fans and the world, people watching worldwide on pay-per-view, what the future of Kiss was going to be. So I don't think they necessarily wanted to end it on like this super, downtrodden moment of like, oh, here's the end of, physical Kiss performing, but more of like, yes, this is our last show, but also this is the way Kiss is going to continue into the future. So I think it was kind of a tightrope walk that they did of emotion. um the way that they delivered the final show.
And
Well, I just want to step back. The one thing that I noticed that was interesting is when the show started, I should say before the show started, they were interviewing people, celebrities who were present at the show, and the very first person that they interviewed was Chris Angel. And I thought it was interesting because the way the show ended was unlike any other Kiss show I've ever seen before in my life. Is that literally as the show was ending, all the pyro and smoke all started building up and the band vanished. You never saw the band walk off stage, which before at every Kiss show, they'd say goodnight and you'd see them, walk off to the sides of the stage, and you didn't see that. All you saw was all the smoke build, and then when the smoke was gone, the band was gone. So I kind of have a feeling that they kind of worked on that effect with Chris Angel, and from what I understand, that this whole thing that they're doing, the is it the new era? Is that what it's called?
yeah. Hmm.
Is is going to be, you know, probably at least start out in Vegas at the Sphere. And, Chris Angel is very involved with that. So I think he's going to have a lot to do with what the band. This is a speculation, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
from the way that they ended the show in a very, very different manner, and the way that they introduced the avatars, it was very interesting the way that they did that.
So what was your reaction to all that? Did you go to like people you went to the show with and go, wow, that was insane, or what the fuck was that? Or I mean, what was your initial reaction after
Well,
seeing?
honestly, on the way there, we had heard rumors about something happening Kiss related at the Sphere afterwards. And what people were speculating was that Kiss was going to do some sort of residency at the Sphere, which people were getting pissed off about because they're like, oh, we're going to Madison Square Garden, it's supposed to be the last show, and now, next year they're going to do this residency. But, then word started getting out about the Avatar thing and the hologram show. And, so that kind of made sense, you know, that they could easily, do that anywhere in the world with the technology. So when it was first, shown, you know, they didn't have, if it's going to be holograms on stage, which is what I'm hearing, that's not what they showed during the show. They essentially just showed the avatars on the screen, and that's, what I saw. So as far as, what it's going to look like, I don't know. As far as the actual look of the band as avatars, I have to admit that I wasn't 100% impressed. I think that the likenesses that they have of Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer were very accurate, but I thought the likenesses of Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons were kind of off. I don't know. I don't know if that was something where, they were trying to make those guys look younger, and they did things that changed the way that their faces look. I don't know. I don't know what was put into the whole, output of what the avatars look like, but I just thought that Gene and Paul looked, they didn't look as impressive as Eric and Tommy as avatars. um you know and again, it just kind of opens your mind up to the question, what is it, what is this going to represent? Is it going to be essentially where you go see a show and it's just going to be all, pre-recorded songs, and you're watching, avatars or holograms, or, you know, doing, what version of the song are they going to do? Are they going to have all new recorded versions for the avatars? Are they going to record new material? Right? I
Yeah.
mean, they could easily try to, push the whole Avatar thing with, here's a new, Kiss record that, the only way you're going to be able to hear these songs live is if you go see, the Kiss Avatar show. I mean, who knows? It really opens you could start asking yourself, speculating a million different questions, what this means, for the future of Kiss, the brand. But I know a lot of people saw it and were confused. I could definitely see that. There are a lot of people that were like, what the hell is this? They just didn't get it, like they just didn't understand. And it wasn't until, I think, if you watch the official YouTube clip that kind of gave a better explanation of what it is and what it intends to be, paints a better picture. But being at the show, the way that it was revealed, it was odd. It was awkward, to say the least, in the way that it came across.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're walking, so the show's over and you're walking out of the venue with this like, Avatar Kiss 2.0 thought going through your mind. And, your intention was to walk out and get on the bus and go back home to Buffalo and think about it. But something very exciting. And you were one of the lucky ones that was able to get a Kiss golden ticket that they gave out. And did you have any did you know that they were going to be giving those out at the end of the show?
No, but before we talk about the ticket, I do want to mention one other thing that I don't know if many people talked about, because I've been, reading some things, but not a ton. But one of the cool things that was there, at the Gardens, and again, I don't know if this was something that other bands have done, or something, that Kiss came up with specifically, but at the seats, they had these wristbands, and I'm just trying to. Uh, they had these wristbands right here. I don't know if you've
Oh,
seen
cool.
these. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And these wristbands, the center here, lit up throughout the show in time, in sync with all the video footage that they had going on throughout the show. So, say
Wow.
there's something on the video screen, I don't know, War Machine, where everything's flashing red. Everybody who had one of these bracelets on, they would all flash red in time. So if
Wow.
you've seen, like on the pay-per-view, if you've seen the camera panning the crowd and you've seen it all lighting up, some people thought they were people with their cell phones out, but it was actually these wristbands that people were wearing. And it was cool to see it because, like I said, everything, it was all synchronized. So like when, the stuff was flashing on the screens, everybody's wristbands were all flashing and the colors were constantly changing. So that was, like I said, that was something I never experienced before for Kiss or any other band. And
What
again,
a
I
great
don't know
idea.
if this is something common. I don't know if you go to a Miley Cyrus show and they have these all the time. I don't know, but this was something that, like I said, they had them actually wrapped around the, uh, the braces on the chairs, and you just took them off and just put them on. And so I thought that was cool. And then
That is
as
very
far as
cool.
the golden ticket, like I mentioned before, when I went to the merch booth, I was really wanting to get something very show specific, you know, and I was disappointed that there wasn't anything. And when Al and I were leaving the venue, we had noticed that there were these people that were handing out these black boxes. We had no idea what they were. So I stopped and I went over to, they had it cordoned off. So you had to get into the line in order to get one of these boxes. But I walked up to the where the line was cut off, and I saw on the boxes, I'll show it to you in a second. They were handing out these boxes. Here, I'll just do it like this. These were the boxes they were handing out. They're the
Wow.
big black boxes with Kiss in gold. Had no idea what it was. Could have been anything, right? So we go ahead and we grab it. We open it up, and look at this.
Wow, that's fucking amazing. I love that. What a
It's a
great
golden ticket,
idea.
man. It's like Willy Wonka, right?
Yeah.
And it comes with a certificate of authenticity.
Hmm.
And it actually, the number, they're all numbered, and the ticket number that's on the certificate of authenticity matches the actual number
Wow.
that's engraved to the golden ticket. And then on the back of the certificate, I don't know if these are printed or these are real autographs, but it has the autographs of the four Kiss guys.
I'm thinking probably printed.
Yeah, probably, but either way, cool nonetheless. Like I
Very
said,
cool.
and this is literally, this was free, and this is literally the best thing that I could have bought if they were selling a memento of the show, and I got it for free. And that was just so ironic that, it's just something that I wanted. I wanted a very cool memento of the show because, as a lot of people may or may not know, is that they really don't have physical tickets anymore for concerts. It's all, on your phone getting scanned. It's not like the old days where you had, a ticket stub. I know a lot of people collect ticket stubs and have, photo albums or what have you. And, so to be able to have something, physical as a, remembrance from the show, this was definitely a cool memento. And I know, some people took advantage and they went through the line a few times. They grabbed a few of them and, have been selling them for crazy amounts of money
Yeah,
on eBay.
some of them are like going for like $2,000 plus on eBay. So what's your price on it?
It's priceless. I'm not selling it. I don't want. But like everything that I own, it's all going to wind up getting thrown in a box, put it out at the end of the street when I'm gone, and throw it in the garbage. It'll all go on and, join the landfill of everything else. But at least I get to enjoy it for now while I'm alive. So
That's so funny because I've been like, looking at all the stuff I've accumulated over the years and comes to the realization that my daughter has like zero interest in this stuff. And I just, I thought to myself, this stuff is so precious to me. And it's like, I think now is the time to start maybe selling it off and getting rid of it because it's not going to do my daughter any good at the end because she's just going to like box it up and throw it out. She doesn't. So I might as well, turn it into cash if I can. But, so out of all the stuff that you have Kiss related, your rock memorabilia, would you say that's number one now on your list of your favorite thing that you own? Kiss? It's got to be up there, I'd imagine.
I mean, truthfully, I have to say the things that I cherish the most are actually during throughout the years of if people don't know, I used to run my own fan magazine for Kiss from 1987 to 2007. I ran the Kiss Underground, and throughout that time, I used to write the band fan letters and send them pictures, and they would write me back, and they would sign the pictures and they would mail them back to me. And that type of stuff to me really made me feel like there was a connection between myself, and obviously to them, I mean, they're just doing it to everybody. But I mean, being 16 years old and getting a letter from Eric Carr, you come home from school and you have a letter, in your mailbox that has, the Kiss logo embossed on the on the envelope, and opening up, and it's a letter from Eric Carr, a letter from Paul Stanley or Gene Simmons, or whoever. I mean, that was the type of stuff that to me meant, it means the most, because it's a personal thing that wasn't even though this is great, and this is a great memento of the show. I mean, these were just printed out and handed out to whoever got one. The letters and correspondence that I had with the members, growing up, those were specifically for me, and those are my memories, and nobody else can have them. So that's what is more important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So to wrap this up, and again, John, thank you for your time and that this are some very insightful observations of the show. And I totally expected that from you and you delivered as always.
Thanks.
W-
And I just want to say, I'm just a fan like everybody else. My opinion doesn't mean any more or any less than anybody else's. It's just my perspective and how I feel. So, I think every Kiss fan obviously is entitled to have their own opinion, and however they feel about the way Kiss ended, the band, uh, in a human live setting, they're entitled to have that opinion. I'm not taking that away. I'm just sharing what I took away from it and how I feel about it personally. I mean, at the end of the day, like Eric Singer always says, Kiss is just a band. Kiss isn't curing cancer. I mean, yes, music is a great escape tool. For a lot of people, Kiss has been the soundtrack to their lives, like mine. And but at the end of the day, you have to keep it all in perspective. You can't let oh my god, Ace and Peter weren't at the last show. And honestly, I see a lot of negativity coming from Ace Frehley about you know oh well, Kiss fans aren't the brightest, and saying really weird things like that, which, I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's the greatest way to start out promoting your new record by, you know, bashing the band that gave you your name. It's like people know who Ace Frehley is because he was Ace Frehley of Kiss. And that's the bottom line, you know. So I get it. Everybody tries to use whatever they can to, as a podium to promote what they're doing. But I don't know. I just don't think there's any need for negativity. I think everybody should just be positive and, you know, celebrate what Kiss did and kind of look back in retrospect and appreciate whatever Kiss brought to them personally in their lives, and use that in some way to go on in your life and remain positive and do positive things and just, and enjoy the very, very limited time that we have on this planet.
Yeah. Well, John, that was well said. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And as
Now
far
I
as
can cry. Now I can
yeah,
cry.
now the tears are falling.
Yeah.
All right, John. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll definitely hook up again soon and talk about Kiss and Kiss This and Buffalo Rock City projects that you have going on.
Definitely. And just to say, Kiss This is definitely something where we continue to carry on real live rock and roll. And that's not at all saying anything negative about the Kiss avatar or holograms or however they're going to present this to the public. But I think there's always going to be a desire for real live music. And there's nothing that can replace that. And if we can, even in the smallest percentage, convey what Kiss did on the scale that they did it, if we can do that even in the smallest percentage and bring that same love and joy to Kiss fans when they come see us, then we're doing our job. And we're going to continue to do that. And 2024 is going to be a great year for Kiss This. And
Yeah,
thank you, Tom.
yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I agree. I think there's really going to be a real thirst for, Kiss tribute bands and just to, experience anything Kiss related, not that the band actually isn't out there. And I think you guys are in a real good spot to like even take Kiss This to the next level. And I'm like I said, I'm really looking forward to catching your next show and checking it out because I want to see live music as well. And I'll give the Avatar and Kiss Point 2 a chance, of course, but it will never be the same as actually seeing the band.
Right.
All right, John. Well, thank you again, and have a good evening.
Yeah, you too, Tom. It's always a
All right.
pleasure.
Same here, man. Take it
All
easy.
right. Rock
All
and
right.
roll.